Welcome, Franklin County residents, and thank you for tuning in to the candidate forum for Franklin County Judge Executive, Democratic primary election held on May 17th, 2022. I'm J.C. Young, and I'm honored to serve on the Chamber Governmental Affairs Committee and your MC and moderator for this event. The office of County Judge Executive was established in the 1850 Kentucky Constitution. Until 1975, the county judge presided over the County Court of Justice, holding a number of judicial, legislative, and administrative duties. The executive function was added in 1976, and the office now holds the duty of being the chief executive of the county. The county judge executive has the primary responsibility for the administration of county government. The office comes with an immense amount of obligation, all outlined and granted through the Kentucky General Assembly. The county judge executive uniquely serves on fiscal court with the county elected magistrates and receives much of their authority from the actions of the fiscal court. The office that you are seeking over the years has become increasingly more challenging as the tasks continue to pile up. I would like to publicly thank you for seeking this position for our community. In this candidate forum for Franklin County Judge Executive, we're honored to have Mr. Steve Shelton, Mr. Michael Mueller, Mr. Huston Wells. Before we begin, I'd like to thank and recognize the Frankfort Area Chamber of Commerce, the Frankfort Plant Board, and our historic newspaper, the State Journal. Serving as our esteemed panelists and moderators, and those doing the real work in this function, are Frankfort Area Chamber of Commerce and President, CEO Tish Shade, Chair of the Chamber Governmental Affairs Committee, Frankfort Plant Board Communications Director Kathy Lindsay, and Editor of the State Journal, Chanda Vino. Candidates, you have 2 minutes for opening remarks with 1 minute responses to questions, 30-second follow-ups. We have a timekeeper, and we ask candidates to please be respectful of that process, pay attention to the time allowed. We had a draw prior to the forum, and opening remarks will begin with Mr. Steve Shelton. Mr. Shelton, 2 minutes.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Steve Shelton. I am a family man, a local business owner, and not a traditional politician. I'm the only member on this panel that has not previously served on the fiscal court that's gotten us to where we are, and I'm hoping to bring some new ideas and some change for a positive environment in our community, and I'm looking forward to working with everybody that comes out of this election at the end, and hopefully we can do some good things in this community for the people. Thank you.
Mr. Mueller, 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you to the Plant Board, Frankfort Chamber of Commerce, the State Journal, and J.C. Young for putting this forum on tonight. My name is Michael Mueller. My wife Andrea and I currently own a nationally recognized business and have 2 children, Jewel and Vance. I am currently the 3rd District Magistrate, and this experience has shown me how our community can improve. I'm running because Franklin County can improve quality of life, planning and zoning, and economic development. The definition of quality of life is the standard of health, comfort, and happiness experienced by an individual or group. Our best resources are our parks and natural areas. Let's think about it. Frankfort has the Kentucky River, the Elkhorn Creek, mountain biking, and over 1,000 acres of parks. We can build on our success with new parks, indoor facilities, which will offer quality of life to residents and bring tourism to our community. Planning and zoning is the mechanism that oversees how our community grows. Let's give our current employees the support they need to make the processes more transparent and consistent. It needs to be structured in a way that there's no gray areas for residents, contractors, developers alike. Economic development ties into everything that is going to be talked about tonight. With my leadership, we could have new businesses in our abandoned buildings and grow in a smart manner. With my leadership, we will build on our current amenities and take the opportunity to become an outdoor mecca and sports destination. People will want to come and stay in our hotels, eat in our restaurants, shop in our stores, which will all benefit small businesses. Based on past trends, Frankfort needs change for progress. Quality of life, planning and zoning, and economic development is my platform, and I am running for Franklin County Judge Executive to make our community better and stronger for everyone. Thank you.
Mr. Wells, 2 minutes, opening remarks.
Thank you, and thank you for having us here tonight, and thank you, audience, for being here. It is a great honor to come before you tonight and say that I have served you for the past 7.5 years as county judge. During those 7.5 years, lots of things have happened. Unfortunately, we have had the worst pandemic in our history, and we got through it, or we are getting through it, and we're at a point where we can sit here tonight and talk to you without mask on or without being on Zoom. We've experienced a lot of unusual situations. When it's easy, someone said this, and I like this statement, it's easy to pilot a boat in calm waters, but it is difficult to pilot a boat when the waters are rough. We've been through a lot of rough waters, and those rough waters are you could say, when I first came in, 3 weeks when I came into office, we had 24 inches of snow. Our community was totally shut down. After the snow, we had 3 floods. We had to bring Homeland. We had to bring FEMA in to help with all the neighbors and all the debris and all the issues that come up. Leadership is bringing people together. Leadership is working with the community, helping people when they need help, and helping our community grow. It is important to me that kind of leadership is from me to you is I listen to you, I understand you. I am the only person sitting up here that is from Frankfort, Kentucky. Thank you, and I appreciate this opportunity.
Our first question comes from the editor of the State Journal, Chanda Vino, and it's going to be directed towards you, Mr. Shelton. You have 1 minute for your response.
Great. Thank you all for being here tonight. We talk about this a lot, especially during election season, the merger of city and county government. Could you tell me what are some benefits and drawbacks to a city-county merger?
This is a question that's come up a lot in the last few months here. For me, I'm opposed to a merger. Quite plainly, it's something that's been brought to ballot, and the people of Franklin County have voted against it. And my studies on mergers, statistically, crime rates and taxes go up. Those are both things I don't want to bring to Franklin County. My ultimate job as county judge executive is going to be to serve you, the people. And if you, the people, have said that you don't want this, I'm going to represent you in the fact that I say I do not want a merger because it's not what you want.
Mr. Mueller, 1 minute.
Could you repeat it just to make sure I heard it right, Chandra?
Sure. What benefits and drawbacks would you see to a city-county merger?
Okay, thank you. You know, ultimately, it has been bid on, has been voted on twice, over the years. It takes the citizens to put it on the ballot. It's not something that's up to the fiscal court or the city commission. Ultimately, I think there's room for the city and county to work together more efficiently. At the end of the day, with people paying taxes and things like that, I don't know if that's the main concern or if they just want to see more efficiency in our government. One thing that I've been advocating for is meetings with our city and county governments, but unfortunately that's not been able to happen. I do think if we start communicating more, left hand talking to the right hand, we can be more successful as a community. Thank you.
Well, let's start with benefits. The benefits would be that I believe there could be money saved by, at least through the duplication process. The city has different departments that we could put together and save money. The drawbacks are that the community is not ready for this, and this is all driven by community, and it has failed twice, and I really don't see the drive yet by the community, but when the drive comes, it ought to be at least discussion, and with that, I'll just leave it right there.
I have a follow-up to that, too. Many of the efforts of the city and county are duplicated. And specifically, I'm talking about like developers and builders who are frustrated going between city and county offices, different rules, that kind of thing. The Planning and Commission and the Zoning Board of Adjustments are joint city-county. The county inspectors are assisting the city right now Do you support like a joint city-county planning zoning office?
That's directed to you, Mr. Shelton, 30 seconds.
I don't know that I would necessarily support that right off the bat without getting more information and feedback from the people. But I think ultimately there has to be a sense of willingness to work together. And that's something that we haven't seen between our fiscal court and city management in the past. And that's something that's going to have to change if we're going to bring any sort of positive environment to what we're trying to do moving forward.
Mr. Mueller, 30 seconds.
So basically, converting planning and zoning into one office would take a strong leadership. I think that's why things like that have not happened yet. I do think it is very confusing for developers, citizens. You know, where do I go to get a permit? Do I need a permit there or here? You know, things are very confusing right now. I don't know what that looks like. You know, ultimately, I think it needs to be talked about, but it comes down to strong leadership on both sides to make something like that happen, if that's what the will of the, you know, the employees. And you know, I think it would come down to a round table with developers and things like that to figure out what's best. Thank you.
30 seconds.
Yes, I do think planning and zoning should be put in one building. That will help developers, one. Two, I think our parks department should be one parks department. That will tremendously help our community, especially as we start working towards a indoor facility, hopefully someday an indoor aquatic center as well, or as part of it. And those things will happen a lot quicker if we have one parks department.
If you're like me and you watching Frankfort Plant Board, Cable 10, then it's your own fault if you don't know Kathy Lindsay. And she has the next question, which will be directed to you, Mr. Mueller.
Okay, thank you all for coming. In the other forums, I've asked candidates what differentiates you from your opponent. But for you guys, I'm gonna switch it up just a little bit because I see a unique situation here, and that we have different kind of situations that you're coming from. We have Mr. Shelton, who is a newcomer. We have Mr. Mueller, who currently serves on the fiscal court and is seeking the higher office, and then we have the incumbent. So I want you, on your turn, to tell us the advantage that you have for this office from the certain position that you are in.
Okay. Thank you. So for me, I am a first-term fiscal court member. And it's been really interesting to watch the inner workings of county government. You know, we have some amazing 237 county employees that do a great job. The reason I'm running for the next office is because I think we can do better. I think communication needs to be better. There's not meetings between department heads and things like that I think there should be. So to me and my business, you know, I look at things a lot as far as that goes. Communication's key with your employees, you know, with your customers, however you want to phrase that. So for me, I noticed within the first year of serving as fiscal court magistrate that we can do better, and ultimately it's that job that dictates how things work and go. So that's why I'm going after that position. Thank you.
Judge Wells, 1 minute.
It's all about relationships. It's about building relationships and talking with people. We need the city to work with the county. The county needs to work with the city. We are one community. We should work together, and we try to do that the best we can. The second part is we need to work with the state government, building relationships with state government. The third part is federal government, working with the federal government, working with our congressmen. Tonight, I hope to announce, I will go ahead and announce because I've got a second. Working with our local congressmen, I am going to announce tonight that we have just been approved to say that we received $3.5 million from Congressman Barr's office through the EPA grant to help build the Farmdale Sanitation District sewers. That is a relationship. Those are relationships that working together that make us stronger.
Ms. Shelton, 1 minute.
Could you repeat the question real quick?
I'll just directly at you as a newcomer to the fiscal court. What advantage does that provide you in order to effectively lead the court?
So, like Mr. Mueller said, we need change. And I'm sitting up here right now is the only one who hasn't been a part of the fiscal court that, in my opinion, has failed the people of this community. There has been so much growth in our surrounding communities, even through the COVID pandemic. And Frankfort has not seen that growth. We've allowed businesses to leave our community and go to surrounding communities. And like Mr. Wells said, that a big part of that is the willingness to work together and build those relationships. And I think that's something that we're going to have to improve greatly. And part of that is just being someone that people are willing to work with. And we have within our fiscal court people that are not willing to work with each other, let alone outside entities. And as a newcomer coming in, it's a fresh start. It's like hitting the reset button on the old Nintendo and just starting all over and saying, hey, we're going to go from here and we're going to build up in a positive manner.
Our next question comes from Chamber President and CEO Tish Shade, and that's going to be directed to Mr. Wells.
Okay. What is your vision for improving the business climate in Franklin County, and how can we better become more competitive with our surrounding communities?
First of all, we need to be meeting together and talking with each other, building relationships, understanding what businesses' needs are, what county government's role is, what city government role is as well. So to me, as judge executive, and I do this with industry, I go out and I say, what can we do to help you? Tell us about your business. Tell us what your needs are. And inevitably, just like many other places, workforce is the big issue. And so we try to work in other ways that we can help them with their workforce problems. But the most important aspect of it is conversation, listening to, trying to understand what the needs are, and working with our businesses.
Mr. Shelton, 1 minute.
So business growth, I'm a businessman. When I look at how I've grown my businesses in the past and been successful at it, it comes through honesty and integrity. Just being a good person, doing the right thing every single time when people are looking and when they're not looking. When you have a reputation of someone who's willing to do the right thing every single time for the people of your community, businesses recognize that, and you become someone that businesses want to work with. And I think when we can foster an environment where people are open to having conversations that are honest and truthful, and it might not be the answer you want to hear, but it's going to be the honest answer, and we can do it in a positive manner to help grow our community for the people in our community, then that's the way that we get those businesses to say, hey, that's a community I want to be involved in.
Mr. Mueller, 1 minute.
Could you repeat it once, please?
So what is your vision for improving the business climate in Franklin County, and how can we become more competitive with our surrounding communities?
Okay, thank you. I mean, for me, as a business owner, it comes down to a couple things. Quality of life. Statistics show now that businesses are looking for somewhere to move where their employees are going to have a good quality of life. That's important to them so they can retain their employees. So that's one of the leading things right now. I think sitting around figuring out what they need. The next thing is workforce. We know that from north to south, east to west, we have a workforce problem. So I think we need to work with the schools to figure that out and help kids with career paths as far as to help the industries and businesses that we have. Another couple of things would be, after reading national articles, is come up with healthcare system for small businesses, if there's some way the county could assist with that. And childcare is becoming a huge thing. Ford Plant is building a nursery in their new facility just because they know that's what they need. And my brother works for an autism hospital, and that's why the hospital got started, because Bernie Marcus, his best employees, had autistic kids, and he saw that need, so he created a child care facility for them, and now it's one of the biggest in the country. Thank you.
Working our way back down the panel, Kathy Lindsay. This question is directed at Mr. Shelton.
Yeah. You answered that question, right? Okay. Just checking. That's what I thought. It's been
You're
long.
second guessing me, Judge. I told you, man. They don't. Look, I've been fired from better paying gigs. I know that.
I won't give everybody their chance. The question I have is specifically for you guys, because as the county judge executive, you're going to be leading the fiscal court. I want to know from you, what do you think is a key character that a person must possess in order to effectively lead, and then share with us a time when you demonstrated that character?
Shelton, 1 minute.
So I'll give you three. Honesty, integrity, and morality. These are all things that I try to put on display on a daily basis, just in how I interact with everybody. I've been fortunate enough in this new experience of campaigning to get to meet a ton of new people, a ton of great people that I otherwise wouldn't have got to meet. And when I talk to them, the number one thing that comes out in our conversations that is important to them is the character of the man that is going to lead the way. I think I've proven through my years of public service as a firefighter, a school bus driver, serving as a constable, that serving other people is something that I put a lot of value on. And so continuing to do that in a new role, in a bigger role, is something that I am extremely happy and excited about.
Thank you.
Could you repeat it one more time, please?
Try to remember what I said. In order to be a leader, what do you think is a key character that a leader must possess in order to effectively lead, and then share with us, a time when you demonstrated that character?
Thank you. Integrity is a big thing. If you do what you say you're going to do, I think that goes far with everybody. Let it be your customers or your employees specifically. I teach a lot of leadership skills within our business, and I try to teach everybody equally that it's lead by example. You're not going to get the respect of anybody on your team unless you're right there with them. So to me, it's coming together, leading by example, do what you say you're going to do, and that's good.
Okay. Same question.
Mr. Wells, 1 minute.
I think the word I'm looking for also is characteristic.
Well, she's changing the question.
Or trait.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
It's all the same.
Okay. I think trust is part of this, but most importantly, I think for people to work together, you have to drop your ego and not think of the I part of team, which is not part of team. You should think of team, T-E-A-M, and don't put an I in there. So ego is very important. When you're an elected official, sometimes your ego gets in the way. You want to take the credit. I don't work that way. That is not who I am. What I want to see is people working together. If I solve an issue or help an issue with a magistrate, I think they should get the credit, and I'm proud to give them the credit. That's the way it should go. I should help them. Today, for example, you asked for an example. Today, a magistrate had an issue in his district. I met with making progress in making a huge change in possibly making a huge change in our community to help that magistrate and our community together.
Next question from Chandavino, and we are starting with Mr. Mueller.
Great. I'm a transplant to Frankfort in Franklin County, but this is the place I chose to call home. One of the reasons that Franklin County is great, I think, is because of its parks. Now, I know that the county only owns one park. Do you think that the city and county could go together in a park system?
Okay, thank you. That's a great question. Lakeview Park has the big master plan going now. We do only have one park. Still don't understand why we don't have a park on the west side or more parks. But I do think it's going to be imperative that the city and county work together. The Hitchcock group that drew the plan up did it in consideration of the city doing things also. So we're in the process of doing an RFP to move to the next level of Lakeview Park project. But at this time, we're going to start meeting with the city because they're going to have to do some things also. So we can pull regional tournaments in here and make it, a destination to help tourism and economic development. So I think there's definitely going to be a partnership in the near future between city and county parks working together for the greater good of the community.
Mr. Wells, 1 minute.
Yes, absolutely we should work together. Absolutely, I think we should have one park system, and I guess I'm I'm going to say this. The statement was just made about, at this time, we should start working with the city. We should have been working with the city from day one when we went through this whole gamut of a Lakeview Park study. I was demanding, where is the city? Where is the city? Why is not the city part of this? The city was doing their own master plan, and the county was doing their own master plan. That's ridiculous. We can't even come close to doing what's proposed in the Lakeview master plan unless we're working with the city.
Mr. Shelton, 1 minute.
Simple answer is yes. I've talked to several people in our different parks departments, and I believe everybody's on the same page that when you look at our surrounding communities and how the sports tourism market has grown and taken over for young families, all of our surrounding communities have merged their city and county parks. I don't think that's a coincidence. I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel. The plan is out there. We need to look at what these other communities that are having success are doing and say, hey, we can do that same thing. We don't have to go on our own. And like Mr. Wells said, yeah, we should have been working together years ago when Charlie Lewis presented it to the fiscal court 7-8 years ago. It was a good idea then, and it's a good one now. And I don't see any reason why it can't be done to successfully merge those two park departments together to accomplish one common goal for the people of Franklin County.
You have follow-up? Yes, ma'am.
Are you in support of the current Lakeview Park plan? And how do you think that the Lakeview Park upgrades should specifically be funded?
Start with you, Mr. Mueller.
Me? Thank you. Yes, I'm absolutely for the Lakeview Park project because I think it could be a game changer for our community, for our local residents, and for economic development. Ways to pay for it, we still have ARPA funds available that we could use to improve certain things at the park right now. We have approved, the fiscal court has approved to put an RFP out to look at doing a hotel tax and look at some different ways to pay for it so it doesn't come off the back of the taxpayers. Thank you.
Mr. Wells, 30 seconds.
The problem about using the ARPA funds that Squire Mueller is talking about is you can't use ARPA funds if you're going to bond money. Today, just off the as what the rates are, we're looking at probably a $70 million building. There is no way that we can use ARPA funds. We only have $5 million left towards that building. It would make a dent in it. So we have to really look at a different way of funding it.
Ms. Shelton, 30 seconds.
Yes, I like the plan that is in place there. I think it is a good plan. It's a good starting point, but I think there are different ways that we could improve it. Like Mr. Mueller said, we have the one park over behind Franklin County High School, and I live all the way down by the Anderson County line. That park couldn't be farther away from my house and the people in my neighborhood. I would like to see us work with the city, with the state, to potentially find something that's more centrally located, easily accessible from Louisville and Lexington, to draw people into our community, which is going to benefit everybody here.
One more follow-up.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
If you could add one more thing to the Lakeview Park plan, what would it be?
Mr. Mueller, 30 seconds.
One more thing to the Lakeview Park plan. I really don't know if I could. We worked with Hitchcock Group and they did a phenomenal job, and I think they almost used every square inch of that. People were wanting to see an aquatic center, but I know the city has that in their master plan, and that's one thing we took into account. And I know the school system's working on that now, and the YMCA downtown. So I think that void would be filled there. So I'm not sure if we could even fit anything else in there. So maybe one more turf field or something, but that'd be about it. Thank you.
Mr. Wells, 30 seconds.
Oh, that's easy. We should have an indoor swimming facility, without question. You've got a 165,000 square foot building, and you can't put a 20,000 square foot pool in that size of building? Come on now, give me a break. We can do that, and we should do that. And that was the reason I voted against the plan, because it had no pool in it. Everybody in this community has spoken, and loudly have spoken about having an indoor aquatic center.
Mr. Shelton, 30 seconds.
Yeah, so the indoor aquatic center is something that I would be a huge in favor of. I find it strange, though, that this is a need that our community's had for several years, and we haven't heard anything about it until 2 months before an election. The other thing I'd like to see is a plan to actually pay for it. We've got big plans, but nobody's talking about where that money's going to come from without putting the burden on the taxpayers.
Kathy Lindsay?
Yes.
This question is directed at Mr. Wells.
Oh, hi. So you've kind of mentioned it in all of your different answers, but we have a lot of goals that we want to reach here in our community, goals for growth. My question for you is, how can we take advantage of being right here in Franklin County and getting help from the state government and our legislature? What can they do for us and for the fiscal court in order to help achieve our growth goals?
Well, one, there's a lot of money out there called infrastructure money, and those monies are going through a process to be used. And so we, from the fiscal court side, I have been attending meetings on trying to wait and see and to give us the progress on this is how we need to go and approach those monies. One, the infrastructure should go for our water, our sewers, the sewer project, the Farmdale sewers that we're trying to move forward, bridges, our roads in our community. So infrastructure is huge, and there's a lot of money. There's over $300 million. There's also money there for broadband. We have a plan set for broadband, and some of those monies should be used for broadband as well. So lots of money, lots of conversations, and lots of work to make sure that Franklin County gets its share of those monies.
Mr. Shelton?
Could you repeat it again for me, please?
How can we take advantage of being, we're here in the state capitol. How can we take advantage from the state government and the legislature to ask for help? What can they do for us in the fiscal court to help achieve our growth goals?
Yeah, so I mean, ultimately, Frankfort's the capital of the state of Kentucky. We should be we should be an area that's not just 100% on the citizens of Frankfort and Franklin County. Like, this is the center of the state. Like, this is where all the action happens. So I think the state should step up to say, hey, we want to improve this community because we as state representatives are a part of this community also. There should be incentives for people to live in Frankfort that work for the state that I don't see, and I don't have a specific answer to how that would go about. But there should definitely be a way that the state takes a vested interest in the people of Franklin County as opposed to just using Franklin County as a housing for its state representatives and state buildings.
For me, it's all about relationships. I feel like, let's say, for instance, the governor. He's one of our neighbors. He's living in our backyard. I don't think we're tapping into that resource enough. He's a great guy. I've talked to him a lot. Lakeview Park project, I pick up the phone. I called the first lady. I said, this is what we're looking to do. She said, you know what, I'm going to come meet you. So what did she do? She brought the kids with her, the dog with her, and we walked Lakeview Park. And she said, you know what, I'll help you with this. When you're ready, we'll look at it. She hooked me up with Jerry Abramson, the ex-mayor in Louisville. I can pick up the phone and call him right now. So for me, it's identifying the people who can get things done and use them to your best ability. And I do think that we need to, the school system downtown's really hurt from the state government be here. And I think that's one of the main conversations that need to be talked about with him is that why are we paying for the other 119 counties, almost $1 billion in tax, that's not being collected, for our local schools. So I've always wondered why we haven't brought that up in a bigger issue. Thank you.
Our next question comes from Ms. Shade, and that's going to be directed at Mr. Shelton.
Okay, so a lot of people in our community have talked about the empty buildings we have sitting around. What does smart growth mean to you, and how would you address the need to infill within our community?
So, yeah, there's a ton of empty storefronts here. You can't help but see them when you drive down the road. To me, the fact that we have so many storefronts that have been filled and are now sitting empty speaks to the dire situation that Franklin County is currently in. And the way that we go about that, I think the key thing is finding a way to replace the Civic Center with a community convention center that could include that indoor aquatic center in it also, to draw people into our community, a venue that does something besides just suit the Monday through Friday state workers, but something that brings people into our community on the weekends and supports our local businesses, our hotels. A tourism tax could be added for non-residents to help pay for it. There are a ton of opportunities that come with investing in something like that, that not only serves a purpose for the people of the community, but also serves a greater purpose, especially in the sports tourism market, to bring people from other communities into Frankfort and show them how great we can be.
Mr. Mueller?
Would you mind repeating it, just make sure I get it right?
So with all the buildings sitting empty in our community, what is your idea of smart growth and what's your plan to infill those buildings?
Yeah, I mean, smart growth is one of those words, like I'm going green, you know, it's kind of everybody's using it, but no one really understands it. So basically, creating a community that is economically, socially, and environmentally sustainable. That's basically a definition of smart growth. So basically, you have the money, the people, and the place. They all have to align for it to make sense. So I mean, smart growth is all about walkable communities, things like that. You know, ultimately, the buildings that are empty really need to be addressed. And if they're not usable anymore, Sears building, 15 years, then that owner needs to be made, be able to talk to in a way that, you know, if the building needs to be taken down and something else can go there, that's a lot of area. You know, after World War II, we sprawled, and sprawling's expensive, and we can't afford it, you know, the roads, bridges, things like that. So, you know, I think we need to look at our footprint right now, look at the big picture, and just work together to figure it out.
Smart growth means to me that a community is developed with movement, without clutter, with allowing people to get from one place to another without having to wait a long period of time. So traffic flow is part of it, easiness to get in and out of, and proper parking and movement is a big piece of smart growth. Infill is another situation, and I hear infill all the time, but infill is not going to work. It hasn't worked because you just brought that up, because we don't have a demand in this community. Until we start growing, until the demand is there, the Sears building for 15 years that's been sitting there is going to continue to sit there. There has to be demand. Demand causes infill to grow, and it also grows your community.
Genovino, you have a question, and we are going to start with Mr. Mueller.
Okay, to kind of go off what the judge said, there is a demand in Franklin County for a residential drug treatment facility. We have none, and yet we have people in every district of this county that are addicted to drugs or alcohol. Are you supportive of a residential drug treatment facility in our county, and why?
Okay, thank you.
Or why not?
Well, you know, just about a month or two ago, the fiscal court passed some updated zoning on allowing them in our community. And I know it's one of those, you know, I care about people, but I don't want it next to me and things like that. So I think it's a matter of educating the community. I personally am not afraid to talk about it. I'm a recovered alcoholic. I've been sober, 11 years. I've had a nephew that's on heroin, things like that. So everybody's affected by drugs, alcohol, and things like that. So I think it's a matter of talking as a community, explaining what it looks like, and educating people on we have to do the right thing if people are going to get better. We need to figure a way not to just get them off drugs, but back into society. And I believe that's what these treatment centers are for. It's more of a transition, not a detox. And I think there's a lot of misconception of what's out there right now. So, yes, I am in support of it, and I think everybody else is too. It's just a matter of communicating. Thank you.
Mr. Wells?
I think it's more than communicating. I think it's an issue not in my backyard, and that's a legitimate concern. That we see all kinds of things that are not in my backyard, not in my backyard. Our whole community seems to be at issue about something not in my backyard. When this came through the process, I clearly stated to several of the magistrates that we're all we need to have, like Squire Mueller said. I'm telling you guys, when it comes to not my backyard, it's going to come back and bite you, And here it is, first time up, it's ready to bite. It's going to take more than just educating. It's going to take more than conversation. It's probably going to end up coming back, I think, and because of the need, we're going to have to come out and relook at the zone and make sure that the zonings are the proper zonings, because even in this situation, 30 acres in my backyard doesn't count.
Mr. Shelton.
Yeah, so I am in favor of a drug and alcohol treatment facility, obviously. There are a lot of people that have struggled with this. I applaud Mr. Mueller for being honest about his situation, and I have people in my family that have struggled with this. As much as we want to help people, we're not trying to negate accountability. And so I think this is something that's going to have to be staged out, and it's going to be a collaborative effort between the fiscal court, getting the right jailer in place to work within the jail system as far as accountability, and then working into a drug treatment facility. So that will alleviate some of those not in my backyard concerns. We can't help people that don't want to be helped, but there are a lot of people that want to be helped, and those are the people that we want to help. So if we can find a way to make people feel comfortable about having this in our community and let them know that this is not a danger to your neighborhood, then that will be key to a successful treatment facility that can incorporate these people back into our society and make them contributing members.
It's time for closing remarks. Judge Wells, we're going to begin with you. You have 1 minute for final comments.
I want to thank everybody for tonight, and I thank you, audience, for being here and watching this. You can see that we have 3 good candidates for county judge tonight. I'm proud to be the one from Frankfort that's here, that is serving you as county judge, and I'm very humbled and honored that you have chosen me over the past 7.5 years to be your county judge. I'm running again because our future depends on how we handle what's in front of us. We have issues that you have seen out in front of us. How do we attract industry? How do we bring businesses into our community? How do we grow our community? All of those are important matters for our future in this great community that we live in. I'm proud to be from Frankfort. I'm proud to serve you, and I'm really proud of you as citizens of this great city. I ask you for your vote on May the 17th, and we can move this community forward. Thank you.
Mr. Mueller, 1 minute.
Again, I would like to thank the Plant Board, the Frankfort Area Chamber of Commerce, the State Journal, and J.C. Young for putting this forum on tonight. My father-in-law, Charlie Wilson, taught me years ago that if you learn one thing from an event, it's worth it. Tonight, I hope you learned something about why I'm running for Franklin County Judge Executive. For me, every time I talk to someone, I learn more about our community's needs, and those needs are what drive me to run for this important office. You have the opportunity to vote for effective leadership and change. To learn more about my vision for the future of Frankfort, please visit MullerForJudge.com. Don't forget, early voting is May 12th through the 14th, and Election Day is on May 17th. I humbly ask for your vote for change. Michael Mueller, number 2 on the ballot. Thank you.
Mr. Shelton, final remarks.
Yes, thank you guys for having me. This experience has been great, and I've loved every minute of it. And as much as I appreciate the other 2 gentlemen up here, I would like to point out that they are both part of the fiscal court that has gotten us to where we are. And I am not happy with where we are. I think we have a lot of potential to grow and do better, and better implies different. And if you keep putting the same kind of people back in office, you will keep getting the same kind of results. And I think we have an opportunity now to start fresh after this pandemic and grow in a way that we've never grown before. A long, sustainable growth that will benefit the people of this community and make this a community for people's children to want to stay in, to want to move back to. That's huge for me, and I know it's huge for a lot of the people here in Franklin County, and that's why I'm asking for you to vote Steve Shelton as your next Franklin County Judge Executive. Thank you.
As we close, I would like to personally thank all of you for seeking this office. You've put your name on the ballot. You spent your own time and money, skipped out on family events just to serve your community, and I want you to know that it's deeply appreciated. You all have done a great job in this forum, and I wish you the very best in this election. I'd like to take this opportunity to remind everyone of the election date, which is May 17th, 2022. There have been some election law changes statewide since the COVID pandemic, and if you don't know where to vote or how to vote, please call the Franklin County Clerk's Office, 502-875-8702, or check out their website. It's loaded with current election information. Voting is a right in this country provided by our Constitution, and I sincerely hope that you plan to exercise your right. It's been an honor to serve as the moderator and MC for this event. I'd like to thank all the folks that aren't on camera for all their work and efforts to make this possible. I'd like to thank the Frankfort Plant Board. I'd like to thank the Frankfort Area Chamber of Commerce and our newspaper, the State Journal. This concludes our forum. Thank you for joining us.